Okay, today I'm in York with Chris Hudson, bookmaker, and also president of the British Racecourse Bookmakers Association. Thanks very much for agreeing to talk to us on a busy week.
No, my pleasure.
First of all, could we just do a few basic things?
Yeah.
Where do you bet on course and how many days a week would you work?
Depending on my health and wealth, both are quite key factors. Where do we bet on course? Yorkshire Meetings, Tattersalls, Epsom Rails, Epsom Derby Rails, Aintree Grand National Embankment, Scottish Grand National, Main Ring, a sprinkling of point-to-points. Unfortunately, they're diminishing now. So I work between 35 and 45 days a year.
Okay, so how healthy would you say the betting ring is these days?
Let's say, as I used to get on my reports at school, could do better. We are suffering a fall in bookmaker attendances, a fall in our stock. We're down, I believe we're down about 20% attendances this year to last year. When NJPC took over, there were about, I think it was 1144, I have got the list at home of by area of the associations. We're now less than 400. So of course we've got fewer bookmakers carrying as much fixed cost. So it's not healthy. The betting ring is suffering from competition from the online, the digital betting. We've got unlicensed layers on Betfair. So it's not an easy route at the moment.
Okay, so what do you think the biggest problems are facing it?
Well, the biggest problems are the competition from the online that can offer different terms to us, and of course they've got a zero cost base. And you can, if you want to lay a 2 or 3 horses in a race, you can do it on the exchanges. Now obviously you're going to forfeit a bit of margin, but you're not going to have the fixed costs that we have. So that about sums it up.
Yeah, should bookmakers sort of accept that has happened about 20 years ago now, and that they need to work around it rather than just say, oh, it's going because of that?
No, I would beg to differ, Simon. The proliferation of the online came more during lockdown, and of course that led to the consequences of increased problem gambling, which of course the Gambling Commission works with a broad brush and treats everybody the same as a one cap fits all. So therefore we're tired of the online brush, and the exchanges, I grant, have been around for about 20 years, but I tend to find the bookmakers rely more and more on them. You know, the software has trackers on and things like that. Whereas before, I will admit, I was one of the first to use the exchanges, but we had somebody sitting at home and we'd phone them up and say, what's on the exchange? We back it on the exchange rather than back it on the course. Okay,
now, even since I've been in the game, which is a lot less time than you, we've got no tic-tacs, we've got no field books, we've got no chalk, we've got no whiteboards, and the betting ring has survived all those changes. I know that the demise of cash has been a little bit, premature, but do you think the betting ring could survive without cash, and are the bookmakers preparing themselves in case that happens?
Well, firstly, I accept the obliteration of the tic-tacs, the field books and the tickets and chalk, but you don't have that other point-to-point, do you, where you've got the no betting exchanges. So that shows you that it can survive. And of course it can survive without, no, it can't survive, cash is essential, cash is king on the racecourse. You can come to the racecourse, put a chunky bet on in cash, it's taken straight away, the price is guaranteed by the bookmaker. I would doubt very much you could get such substantial amounts placed off course in cash.
Yeah, right. So are the bookmakers actively looking, are they preparing themselves for the worst in case?
Well, the worst in case is no cash or use a card. Now, people do like to use card, but for small bets. Now, it's time consuming for the bookmaker. If he takes a large bet on the card, he's wondering, is he going to go through? So there's not a lot more that we can do apart from, use debit cards, but it slows the whole process up.
And spinning it around, would the novelty or the increasing novelty of betting in cash be something you could use to promote the betting ring? Come
Indeed.
racing, bring your racecourse readies.
That's right, yes indeed, yeah. Bring your racecourse readies, bet cash, pay cash, and get a fixed price to a substantial amount of odds.
Okay, now this is just my opinion, but the betting ring as a collective doesn't appear to be promoting itself at all. There's some bookmakers who do a great job of on social media to attract people to them when they come racing, but shouldn't the betting ring be proactive as a group to promote themselves against, to combat all the other things that you say that are going against it?
You're absolutely correct, we should, and the racecourses have said as much when we have our meetings with them, that we need to promote ourselves more, give us a paper and we'll promote you with it. When we ask the lesser informed associations, they don't really want to get involved. So yeah, I fully agree that we should promote ourselves more, the flamboyance and the style of having a bet with the bookie, and the fact that you get a fixed price, a guaranteed fixed price to a substantial amount of money.
Yeah, and I mean, you open the Racing Post today, you see full-page adverts for lots of. Why can't the bookmakers themselves have a full-page advert saying, if you're coming to York today, all these bookmakers are betting there, come and see us. Something like that that's right in the face of the racing public that you never see it.
Well, simply, I would think that most of the people that buy the Racing Post aren't coming to the races. So I do feel that there should be some collective advertising, but when we've tried to work with the smaller associations before, they don't want to do it. Now we have one of the best observed websites in the country, but of course customers, or punters or customers, let's be correct, don't look at trade websites. So yes, we could do more and we should do more.
Okay, and has your association, you talk about the other ones, has your association ever considered spending money on an advertising campaign, proper money, really go for a big kick?
We have, but where would the money come from? You'd have to ask the bookmakers to contribute, and it wouldn't get you'd have to get every bookmaker to want to contribute, and that would be difficult. Now, we've discussed it, and we've thought about doing it ourselves, but it's a case of using our reserves to fund other people's businesses. So if we could all work as one on this and other things, it would be a lot better.
Wouldn't it be possible to make a rule that you have a vote, a democratic vote on it, and then if the vote went through, there'd probably be a fairly small amount of money each bookmaker would have to pull up. Could you not impose it as an organisation?
Well, you can't impose anything, can you? How would you impose it? As a condition of membership? Well, people would say, well, if you said, right, well, if we're going to have an advertising campaign, how would you do it? Which area? You'd have to promote the whole ring, every area, from pitch 1 to pitch 65, the rails, Tattersalls and the silver ring. Now, as you've already alluded to, each of these areas always conflict in business. I fully agree that we should try and be more in the public eye. I've tried to speak to Matt Chapman on this, but he's never come back to me. So, yeah.
Now, I mean, in my past, one of the people I worked for, Dave Phillips, he was on one of the negotiating committees.
Yeah.
I remember him being absolutely exasperated. It was the boards on rails when all that was being negotiated. Yeah. And in the end, the racecourses just pretty much did what they wanted. Because the bookmakers couldn't agree.
Well, that isn't quite the same. But I was at the same time I was working on the 2012 negotiations, and the boards on the rails hadn't, at which point it was a case of the 1-for-1. That was what the problem was over. It wasn't boards on the rails. This was something that John Banks fought for under the Competition Act. So, yeah, maybe we should. Yeah, we do try to stick together, but there's some that do and some that won't.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to keep labouring the point, but aren't bookmakers often their own worst enemies because they can't agree for the better good? Is it because the better good may not do them so much good as somebody else, and that's why they don't agree?
Exactly.
There's no way you can change that mindset. I know you can't. It's not your job to do it, but yeah. Until they do, surely it's going to go down and down.
It is our job to do, but it's finding common ground on a common problem.
Okay. Do you think that racecourses appreciate the atmosphere and the draw that the on-course bookmakers provide?
I fully do, because myself and our association speaks to a lot of the racecourses, the racecourse groups. Obviously, we've got a lot of local racecourses here, and we they do appreciate us, and they go out of their way to help us as well.
I think do you think that's countrywide?
Well, I can only speak for the people I speak to, and I speak to Dick on White at the Jockey Club, Steve Clare. I spoke to Tony May yesterday. I do think it's countrywide, yeah. I mean, have you any evidence where it isn't the case?
It does seem that some courses, the bookmakers are seen as a bit of a hindrance rather than a draw.
Which courses are these? None of the ones I've dealt with, but so.
I would say probably the midweek tracks that run regularly. I don't want to name any specific ones.
No, obviously not,
but they would rather that nobody was there.
Well, that's not an alternative business model, isn't it? And I would think that's been brought on by the effect of COVID.
Okay. Now, Arthur, you talked about Tony May there.
Sorry?
You talked about Tony May there, and we've had a discussion in the past about the look-alike bookmakers' pictures that pop up.
Yeah.
They're popping up everywhere.
Yeah.
Are the bookmakers doing anything to try and hope the intrusion of that, or is it something that you accept now?
Well, the thing is, when you say accept now, it's been around for a long time. We're going back to the Fred Doan, Betfred days. Those were brought about then. Now, it's the racecourses that decide where they go. Now, I speak with Nigel Roddis fairly regularly, and he makes sure that those positions are entirely in the boundaries that they should be. And only as recently as Newmarket a couple of weeks ago, there was a case where it might have been a grey area, so they weren't put there.